Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to today's edition of Intuitive Angling, and much appreciated you guys coming by the channel and spending some time with me today. We are going to be talking about this comment, this reoccurring comment I've been hearing coming out of the mouths of professional anglers over the past year that is highly disturbing, that is highly messed up, that ought to be concerning every angler out there. And I'm going to give you my 2 cents worth on it, and definitely get looking forward to hearing what you guys have to say about it as well. Also, guys, before we get started, one quick reminder. I want to let you guys know about the first of the year sale on my Solar Bat Series RB2 and RB3 Series sunglasses. You can get them at 30% right now at the Solar Bat website. I'll put the link in the description of this video if you guys would like to pick up a pair. These are the RB3s right here. And like I said, if you guys are looking for lens color, the high contrast yellow on cloudy days and the mossback green on sunny days is a good choice there. So really appreciate that. Okay guys, this is unbelievable here. I can't believe that this has been normalized. And the reason I wanted to do this video is I heard an angler 2 days ago say the same thing that I have heard probably 50 pros say over the past year. They were interviewing this guy. He was getting ready to fish one of the big tournaments. They've been practicing. And he goes, man, fishing's pretty tough right now. He goes, unless you're scoping, it's hard to get a bite. Guys, you know how many times I've heard that unless you're scoping, it's hard to get a bite. Unless you're live scoping, it's hard to catch a fish. Guys, let's examine this and let's break down how messed up that comment is right there. It's not an innocent comment. It's not just a, some type of an observation. This is a deep-rooted problem right here, because when you have dozens and dozens of tournament anglers that say the same thing over and over again. Number one, let's get into this exactly how screwed up this is. Number one, look how reliant everybody has become on the cheater box at the tour level. They realize that, obviously they can't compete without it. Obviously every tournament's getting one with it. So that is the game for the majority of tournament anglers out there. And even though they may, say or attempt to fish like real bass fishing is, they go out there, they actually real bass fish for 2 or 3 hours. They can't get a bite. Then they go out there and they hook up their umbilical cord to their cheater box, and they get out there, scope around out in the middle of a creek, and they get on a big school of fish. This right here, guys, there's so many things that should concern everybody on this. Number one is the complete reliance upon this technology and the atrophy of real bass fishing skills. Bass fishing is meant to be tough. It's like, that's the whole point of it right there. You never want bass fishing to be easy, where it's guaranteed to catch fish and you're going to go out there and put your cheater box in the lake and start ripping the fish. It's like, that is not what it's about. If you have that perception, and you have this perception that it's all about catching, you might as well put electroshocking cables in the water and just shock up the fish, because that's all you're after. You're only after the end result of the fish. The entire process of breaking down water and learning seasonal patterns and movements of the bass, and fishing to find fish, and experiencing all the nuances and the diversity that bass fishing has, is out the window, because the only thing that matters is catching that fish. It doesn't matter it doesn't matter how you do it. If that does not disturb and upset you on an extremely deep level, you need to be re-educated about what bass fishing is. Now, the second with that is the comment goes in line as far as, it's hard to get a bite unless you're, spotlighting for bass. That goes to the point about how bad and how terrible our fisheries are right now. Make no mistake about it, guys. The bass fisheries in this country, every lake across the country, is in worse shape than it has ever been. The fishing is tougher. The bass are more educated than they've ever been before. And that is why people are so reliant on this technology to get out there off the bank and try to find those fish that are not pressured and are not on the bank anymore. And I don't care what biologist said or what fisheries manager said, it's all about the ability to actually take the time that you put on the water and correlate that into fish catches that are on a realistic level. And right now it's not, because if you take bass fishing 40 years ago with the traditional lures that we had 40 years ago, and you went out and caught quite a few fish. For example, I used to be able to go down to Grand Lake, back in the early 80s, and I could take a Rebel Deep We Are, or I could take some little cheap crankbait, and I could go out there and catch 20, 30 keepers a day and 15, 20 pounds almost every day that I went out there. You go to Grand Lake right now, guys, I'll give you a Rebel Deep We Are, the same bait I was catching them on 40 years ago. You go down to Grand Lake and throw it right now. If you catch one fish on it in 3 days, you might, consider yourself lucky. The fishing sucks now compared to what it used to be, but we're under this illusion that fishing is good because you see now the new 20 and 30 pound bags are the norm, and it used to be 10 and 12 pound bags were the norm. And so people say, well, fishing's better than it's ever been. This is just great. That's not the case. That is not the case whatsoever, because this technology, the technology that is in place right now creates this illusion of better fishing when in reality it sucks. Now, let me give you guys one good point here, what I'm talking about. I was talking to a buddy of mine that lives up at Lake of the Ozarks. This guy's old. He's probably 85 years old. I've been friends with him forever. And anyway, this guy has been a lifelong bass fisherman. He's lived at Lake of the Ozarks, and he lived at Table Rock for a lot of years, lived at Lake of the Ozarks. He spent his life bass fishing. And, he's a pretty quiet guy. He doesn't say much. He's not real opinionated. But I was having this talk with him yesterday, and he goes, Randy, something's changing right now. He goes, I'm going to tell you right now. He goes, I'm 85 years old, and he said, I'm really glad that I don't have to look forward to the next 30 years of fishing with this technology, about having to have technology to fish with. He goes, that's just not what fishing is about. And what his opinion was on the thing, because he fishes Lake the Ozarks like 2 or 3 days a week, is he thinks that the the noise levels from electronic units have pushed the fish off of the bank out into the middle of the lake. He's examined this. He's on the lake a lot of times. He's trying to figure out, why fishing is so much tougher now than it's ever been. He doesn't have a live scope, but he knows people that do, and he talks to him. So he has fished Table Rock and Lake of the Ozarks for the past 60 years, and he's seen this like myself. He's seen the deterioration in fishing on these places that traditionally every single year, every single decade have consistent fish populations on them. There's certain places on a lake, when you talk about places like channel swings and creek channel intersections and secondary and main lake points, these are mainstay places that the bass live at. And my buddy up there is not catching them on these places anymore. They're gone. Those fish have been there ever since he's been fishing, and he said the last 2 or 3 years those fish are completely gone. I see the same thing. This is another thing that I've been talking about, in my own fishing experience, my fishing at Stockton Lake and Table Rock. Those fish that have been in those places that we have caught them at year after year after year in shallow water, those fish aren't there anymore. Now, my buddy thinks the fact that they moved out to offshore deep water, to escape the fishing pressure, the electronic pings. Personally, I just don't think they're there. I think that they've been caught. I think they've died of delayed mortality. I think people put the fillet knife to them. I just don't think those fish are there in the populations that they were before. But the point of the whole video that I want to talk about here, guys, is all these pros are saying the same thing. It's hard to get bit unless you're scoping. Hard to get bit unless you got that live scope on. That is a warning call. That is a fire alarm right there. And if we continue to normalize this, and we continue to gaslight the situation, we continue to say, oh, Randy, just get off your grandpa, keep up with technology, or you're going to get left behind. It's like, your old ways don't work anymore, like that. I've heard all the smart ass comments by the dumbasses that say that. And the point of what I'm talking about here is we have got to transcend this normalization that we have on live scope and technology, because it is destroying the sport on every single level. And people can say, it's like, there's been no data to support that. You don't know what you're talking about. This is the greatest thing that's ever happened. It allows people to go out and catch fish that don't have much experience. It allows young anglers to get into the sport and have interest in it. I've heard all the crap behind that, which is none of it's true. The point of the matter is fishing is a primal instinctual sport. It's a sport where you have to immerse yourself in every aspect of the environment in order to truly appreciate it. And when you take that out of the sport and you try to commercialize it to the extent where it's just a fish catching venture and nothing more, you just diminished everything what it is about it, on top of endangering the sport. Because forward facing sonar, live scope, we said this over and over again, it is selfish. I have not met one single scoper before that has the ability to look beyond themselves. It's like they love it. They love watching the fish on the screen. They love watching the fish come up and bite their lure on the screen. I've heard all the crap, but besides, but it's all about instant, immediate gratification, where people want to take shortcuts. Bass fishing on a real level, real bass fishing, is something that requires a lifelong commitment. It's something that you never master. It's something that you never fully understand, and you never want to do that. The more that we know about bass fishing, the more it takes away from what bass fishing is, because when you remove that unknown and the mysterious part of bass fishing, then you just take everything away from it. That would be like eating a chocolate cake and not putting any sugar in it or something. So anyway, guys, I've heard this over and over again about these guys that they're so connected to their umbilical cord, but they've completely lost confidence in their ability to catch fish. And you're going to see that more and more. You're going to see it where people are so fascinated and so addicted to the immediate gratification and the endorphin rush of seeing something on a video game screen that they just completely don't have any interest or desire to learn anything more about bass fishing, other than turning that screen on and throwing that jig head minnow out there and watching that fish eat it on a screen. That is what bass fishing has become. Make no mistake about it. And as a bass fisherman, if you cannot understand how screwed up that is and what an insult that is to the fish and to the bass, like I said, you really need to reevaluate your worldview on what fishing is. So anyway, like I said, I feel sorry for the dudes out there that have gotten sucked into this propaganda, forward-facing sonar, and just, I don't know, guys. I get so freaking frustrated about this, about the 25-30% of the bass fishermen in this country that have their heels dug in on this technology, and up is down, and no, that's not the sun up there, that's the moon at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Just complete denial of reality. So anyway, guys, let me know what you think about it, and we'll talk later.